Hey guys, it's me, cyoubx, and welcome to the third episode of Real or Fake. This is the series where I tell a story that's either true or completely made up, and it's your job to determine the validity of my story. Before we begin, a couple announcements. First of all, I've been MIA for a while because of school and because my computer is slowly but surely dying. So I'm working on getting a new system. So that's why I haven't done any tutorials because I want to do that on the new computer. The other announcement is that I think I've hit puberty for like a third or fourth time because my voice has gotten deeper again, which is annoying. And I'm sorry if you guys hate it, but there's not much I can do. Um, it's weird and uncomfortable, and my voice cracks like crazy, like I'm a 12-year-old, and it's super embarrassing, which is why I haven't made videos. But hopefully you guys will be okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. So last episode, I talked about a biking trip I took with my gym class, and I even said in the description that the story was real, but most of you said it was fake, which is kind of insulting because I've told like two truths, well now three, because the first story was real, you guys said it was fake. The second story, I told you guys it was real, you said it was fake, and as it turns out, the second story was also real, so you guys lost. So that story was completely true, and that means I get 2 points now, and you guys still have 0. So I have a very clear lead here. You guys need to pick it up a bit. Hopefully this story will help. Today's story actually is in 6th grade, and there was a kid, I'm going to call him Jim, just because I'm going to keep it anonymous, but Jim did not like me. He used to like me, but then all of a sudden he like started hating me, which was weird. I still don't understand it. But the first sign was that he started saying stuff to me in Spanish, but I didn't do anything about it because I didn't understand Spanish. I still don't. The only words I know are like taco, burrito, and chimichanga. So I was just apathetic. Then one day, it was like 4 days later, 3 or 4 days later, during lunch, he threw a cookie at me, and honestly, I didn't care. I was like, here, you can have your cookie back. I gave it back to him too. I didn't want it, so I gave it back to him, and that was that. But then that same day, during recess, so at our school we had recess after lunch, we were all playing tag, but Jim wasn't. Jim was just doing his own thing. We were all playing tag, and I was hiding behind a fence because I didn't want to be tagged, so I guess I was doing the hide and seek tactic because I'm not particularly good at running. I'm like a gazelle with 3 legs. I was hiding behind a fence, and the person who was it did not find me, which was good, but Jim did. Jim found me, and he spat at me. And now Jim's a very interesting person because he's not what you would call a cool kid. Like if you think of a cool kid in your head, that is not Jim. And I'm not saying that to be mean because I wasn't cool either. You know, I'm just being honest. So, yeah, when he spat at me, it was very unflattering for him because the spit kind of just like flew all over his face. I didn't get hit by any of it, which was awesome, but it certainly scared me, so I ran from behind my fence. And there was an adult person on top of the hill watching the playground. She wasn't like the principal, and she wasn't like a school official or anything like that. She was just one of those like adult figures looking over the playground. So I started going toward her, and Jim followed closely behind me, and he was getting closer, and I was like, you know, whatever. If he spits at me again, it's not going to hit me, so I'm okay with that. Jim actually pulls out a fork, which he must have gotten from lunch, because at lunch we have plastic forks, and that's what he was pulling out. He pulls out a plastic fork, and he tells me that he's going to stab me, and at that point, I'm like, oh my god, this is really scary. And, I mean, looking back, of course, it's not too scary because, you know, a 6th grader with a fork can't really impale a person too much. But back then, I didn't know any better, so I was scared. So I start running. Again, I'm not very graceful, but I start running as fast as I could toward the official. And when I get to her, I tell her that Jim's going to stab me with a fork. And she looks at me, and she is displeased, which I don't understand. But then Jim comes along, still holding the fork, mind you, and he actually starts doing stabbing motions like the shower scene in Psycho. So I start running around the official, using the official as a meat shield, of course, and Jim follows around as well. It was completely comical now that I think back about it. The official was not pleased. She told us both to stop, and then she brought us to the principal's office, and we were, of course, separated into two different rooms, I'm guessing for my own safety or something else. And at that point, the principal walks in, and the principal tells me to fill out a green sheet. And this is something I don't think it's exclusive to my school. I think a lot of schools in the U.S. do this, but a green sheet is basically, it's a referral for elementary students, except that you don't really get in trouble. I think the punishment is you fill it out, they call your parents, and then they basically humiliate you. And to most of you, you're probably like, oh, that's not even that bad. But if there's one thing you should know about me as a 6th grader, it's that I perpetuated pretty much every single Asian stereotype, except for the driving one, because as a 6th grader, you can't really drive. Back then, I never got in trouble because I just studied, like, math all day. It's embarrassing to say, but it's true. So, as a 6th grader getting this green sheet, I actually start crying because I never get in trouble, and this is just, mind-blowing to me. I, of course, didn't want my parents to find out because I didn't want my mom to be disappointed in me. Kid stuff, right? But, I finally calm myself down, and I look at the green sheet because I'm supposed to fill this out, and it's like a questionnaire with 2 questions. So the first thing on the green sheet is actually an instruction, and it just says that you cannot use second or third person. You can only use first person descriptions, basically meaning that you can only describe what you did and can't describe what the other person did, which is BS because I didn't do anything, but fine. So I read the first question, and the question was, what did you do to make this happen? And I look at that question and I'm like, I have no idea. I'm pretty good at tests, but this was one question that I could not answer, and it was, I was a little shocked. So I left it blank, and I was like, okay, I'll just move on to the second question. And the second question was, what can you do to prevent this from happening again? And again, I have no idea because I don't know what just happened. I'm a little bit in shock. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, and I'm still crying a little bit, and yeah, I just don't know how to answer these questions. So the principal walks in. It must have been like 10 or 15 minutes later, and the principal asked me how I'm doing on this green sheet, and I'm like, I'm not, because I don't understand. And he says, okay, just fill it out to the best of your ability. And I'm like, okay, fine. And so the first question was, like I said, what did you do to make this happen? So I just said, I did nothing. And the second question, I still left blank because I honestly just had no idea. And finally the principal comes in and looks at it, and he's not pleased with my answers, but he just leaves the room, closes the door behind him. So after the principal walks out, it's like I have no memory of what happened after that. I know that I went home, and that was pretty much it. I don't actually remember if I got in trouble or not. If I did, it's probably like a repressed memory, but I honestly don't remember what happens after the principal walks out. I just remember I went back to school the next day, and Jim was actually pretty cordial with me, and it's like the thing never happened, which is so weird, and it's just a weird story. If you're wondering about how Jim and I are doing today, we're actually okay acquaintances. Again, we're not like friends or anything, but I mean, we're Facebook friends, so take that for what it's worth. And yeah, I guess that's that. So that is the story of what happened in 6th grade. So now it's your turn. Write real if you think the story was real. Write fake if you think the story was fake. Remember, both words are only 4 letters long, so if you could participate, that would be dandy. We've had about 230, 240 comments on the previous 2 episodes, which is fantastic, and hopefully we can continue to keep this series alive. I will announce in the next episode, of course, if you guys want or not. And I think that's it. I will probably be doing a unboxing, review, and then tutorial shortly. But of course, I am getting a new computer, so that could depend. But until next time, toodles.